Radical hospitality, passionate worship, intentional faith development, risk-taking mission and service, extravagant generosity. These are the practices of vibrant, growing, fruitful congregations. I'm Robert Schnase, author of 5 Practices of Fruitful Congregations, and I'm thrilled that your congregation is taking part in a wonderful conversation about the mission and purpose of the church. The purpose of the church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. But how do we do that? The most visible way God knits people into the community of Christ and draws people into relationship with God is through congregations. Congregations that fulfill the ministry of Christ in the world. Congregations that repeat and deepen and learn and grow, improve and extend on these 5 basic practices. These are the fundamental activities that are so critical to the mission of the church that failure to perform them in an exemplary way leads to congregational decline and deterioration. Here's how the 5 practices work together in the mission of the church. First, there's radical hospitality. Congregations offer the invitation and embrace of Jesus Christ, the gracious welcome that creates genuine belonging, that brings people together into Christian community. And once someone belongs to the Christian community, worship, it's in worship that is alive and passionate and authentic that God works to shape the hearts and minds of people, helping us see the world through God's eyes and creating in us an even greater desire to grow closer to God, a desire to learn more. And that leads us to this desire to enter into learning and community, intentional faith development. Intentional faith development refers to those Bible studies and Sunday school classes and small group experiences where we mature in the faith, where we learn about joy and peace and grace and forgiveness and those elements that we can't learn by ourselves. And we can't deepen our faith very much without us sensing in ourselves a call of God to make a difference in the lives of other people. And this takes us to risk-taking mission and service. These are the ministries that churches do to make a difference in the lives of others, whether or not those people will ever become part of the church. And as we mature in faith, we grow also in generosity and we give back just as we have received to strengthen the church, the ministry, and the body of Christ, so that more people now and in the future can receive what we have received, and that's the extravagant generosity. Radical hospitality, passionate worship, intentional faith development, risk-taking mission and service, extravagant generosity. These words are powerful and edgy and provocative. They're dangerous and irresistible and contagious, and they can change you and they can change your church. The practices are really pretty basic. Hospitality is what a church does about inviting people, evangelism, and then worship, and Christian education is intentional faith development, and there's mission and generosity or stewardship. But it's the adjectives that make these words come alive, because it's the adjectives of radical and passionate and intentional and risk-taking and extravagant that pulls us out of ourselves and stretches us and causes us to ask ourselves, how are we doing as a church, and how can we do better, and how are we doing as Christian disciples, and what may God be expecting of us? I believe that Jesus' ministry was radical and passionate and intentional and risk-taking and extravagant. Now, these are practices, not steps, not qualities of a church that some churches have and some don't. They're not phases that once we get that done, we can move on to something else. These are practices that we have to learn and deepen and repeat and improve upon constantly. I think of the example of baseball when I think of practices. If you look at little leaguers practice, they scoop up grounders, they catch pop-up flies, they practice batting. And then you look at the big leaguers, those who are getting paid zillions of dollars and are at the height of their careers, and they do exactly the same things when they practice. They practice batting, they practice scooping up grounders and catching pop-ups. That's the way practices are. We never finish one and say, now we've got that done, and we don't have to focus on that anymore. These practices are behaviors that congregations learn and grow and improve upon. They are applicable to small churches, large churches, medium-sized churches, urban, rural, suburban, and they apply to your congregation as well. During these next several weeks, you're going to have this wonderful opportunity to focus on the purpose of the church and to reinvigorate the ministries of your church. The purpose of this time together is to take these words beyond conversations between pastor and church leaders and take them into the worship services and classes and homes of every church member, to embed them into the fabric of your congregation. You'll be having a church-wide, in-depth conversation about the purpose of the church, the why of congregational life. I hope that one of the results of this is that you develop a unifying common language that helps people understand the tasks of Christian discipleship, that this is a conversation that will push deeper and shift culture and reshape attitudes and spark creativity. The whole church will be praying together and learning together and growing together in ministry. My prayer is that your church can experience a reinvigorated sense of purpose and connection to God and to the ministry of Jesus Christ. I thank you for your love of the church and for your love of Christ and for your leadership in these moments. Enter this time prayerfully, allowing the Spirit of God to pervade the lives of the members of your congregation, so that through you the ministry of Jesus Christ can become fruitful, can blossom.